Series as well as the exhibition series. This afternoon we have two events. A lecture by the French collective Daft Punk, the French collective BAST, and two openings of the exhibitions upstairs in the two galleries upstairs. So a few words about them. In Stubbins, Continuità, Modernism in Milano, curated by Mark Cottle. It's a roll call of exemplary architecture from one of the richest periods of modernism anywhere. 40-odd years from the 20s to the 60s in the last century in Italy and in Milan in particular, when Italian architects both practiced and theorized through their practice. Particular buildings and architects from this period have influenced and continue to influence architects and architecture schools in Europe and in the Americas. And in the Cohen Gallery, a sampler of work from our junior students who spent spring 2019 in Barcelona. They focused on the scale of the city, the building, and the hand. And housing for recent arrivals was the main focus of the studio. As part of this semester, they were fortunate enough to visit Milan, which introduced them to how architects in this city resolved history, construction, and materials in the buildings that they built, both for the working classes, but especially for the bourgeoisie. Helen Fialkowski, who just started at Princeton, and Mark Cottle curated this work. The visit by BAST is co-sponsored by the Consulate General of France Atlanta, and is part of France Atlanta programming, and I think you picked up the brochure as you came in. It happens every fall on campus, and I think it's the 10th year. Before I introduce BAST, I'd like to invite Madhu Mahendran to say a few words.
Thank you, Sabir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Reinsch Family Auditorium. My name is Madhu. I'm part of the team of the Cultural Services of the French Embassy. This event is part of the 10th edition of France Atlanta and co-organized by the Cultural Services of the French Embassy in the United States and Georgia Tech School of Architecture. BAST, Bureau Architecture San Titre, a collaborative agency based in Toulouse and winner of the Emerging Architect Special Mention 2019 for the refectory of communal school project. They will give a public lecture. During their residency, they will lead a workshop with architecture studio students. And now Sabir Khan will say a few words. Thank you.
Thanks, Madhu. BAST is a collective founded in 2013 and based in Toulouse. Today we have with us, where's Laurent? Laurent Didier, Mathieu Lenny, and Louis Léger. BAST have won many awards, and I'm not going to go over the roll call. You should go to their website. It's really quite cool. It's bureau at bast0.com. BAST have won many awards, most recently what Madhu just said, the 2019 EU Mies Emerging Architecture Award. You're familiar with this project because it was on show earlier this semester. E26 was a rural school, very, very simple and very, very direct. And they worked with materials, as you always do, and this was 5 CLT panels, or mainly CLT. Their work, and the way they work, shares a sensibility with other young practices in Europe, as well as in the Americas. Plan Común in Paris and Santiago de Chile, Hash Architects in Barcelona. I won't say much more since they're with us until Monday and are working with students in my studio and other graduate students on a one-to-one intervention in the Hinman Courtyard. It's been an incredibly rewarding 2 days simply to observe them engage the students to see how they think and to react to contingencies of a design build, which are every 20 minutes. Their name says a lot. Bureau d'Architecture San Titre, literally Office of Architecture Untitled. And you can parse that in many, many ways. Their work and working process has a specificity and a directness, a neutrality and a short banality even. They have sure instincts to what the situation is and what the appropriate response should be. perhaps a great description of their work and their working process is that it is both precise and concise. Please join me in giving them a very big hand.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? It works? Okay, cool.
And me too.
So, thank you, Sabir, for that. First, we'd like to thank the French Consulate for organizing this France Atlanta event and to put us in the lineup. That's really gratifying for us. We'd like to thank Pascal and Matou from the Consulate that showed us around Atlanta a bit, for instance, and that are helping us for the organization in here. Of course, thank you, Sabir, for inviting us to do this workshop with your students, to allow us to be here, to share it, to confront this kind of maybe European way of thinking with the way of your student thinks. And that's a cultural confrontation which is really rich. So thank you for that. Thank you to the Georgia Tech for inviting us, to let us be in the campus, to witness this kind of organization. Is the first time for us spending time on an American campus. It's quite interesting too. And then thank you to all the students, of Sabir students, but other students that take part in the workshop. It's really a good time for us. We like it. We like to move around the university, to find materials and to meet people, to make them part of the project with us. So that's really great. So thank you very much, all of you. Today, the lecture we're going to do is called C14. C14 stands for Conférence 14, which means lecture number 14. And it's important to us that each lecture we give is different. So this one is the 14th one. The 15th one won't be the same. So tonight is just made for you. And it's also important because we also try to face every opportunities of, like, let's say, when someone calls us to ask us to do something, we face it as a project. We face kind of everything in the office as a project. So this conference, we faced it as a project, with its constraints, with everything. So that's part of the methodology we apply to everything we are facing. This conference, this lecture is made of in two parts, two stories, let's say, that we're going to read in English, that have been not written by ourselves. That's quite important to us because it puts some kind of objectivity in what we're going to present to you. We are not so comfortable about talking about what we do, because as Sabir said, it's quite direct. For us, it doesn't need much words. So we like the idea of picking words from others that are talking about us, illustrate them, and give the message through them. So that's what's going to happen tonight. These two texts just give an idea of our approach. It's not going to talk precisely and describe our project. It's more, the idea is more to give you the general approach and the philosophy of our office.
Until recently, there were 5. Now, there are 3. Who knows how many architects will compose BAST in the future? Ever since they changed the legal status of the firm and turned it into a cooperative enterprise. BAST, an acronym for Bureau Architecture San Titre, Untitled Architecture firm, has become an experiment in a state of instability. Everyone has a share in the enterprise and everyone does the same job. There is no question of reproducing the hierarchies common in other firms, where the head architect supervises while designers, do the drawings.
At BAST, the cooperative is a project in its own right. Witness this double entry Excel sheet made to ensure that internal collaborations are never static. 5 partners yield 20 possible pairs, a duo per project. It's up to the ad hoc twosome to implement decisions made by the collective. To achieve this, rules are needed, because it's well-nigh impossible for 5 people to agree on where to pierce a window. In point of fact, the division of labor is an expression of their preoccupation as designer with objectifying architecture. A project is the outcome not of an architect's desire, but rather of a logical succession of choices. In the preliminary design phase, group discussions serve to pare down the idea and to ensure that BAST as a whole appropriates the subject, along with the element of its language and architecture. A single idea must be the focus of attention. A single principle must unite the intervention. To optimize the natural lighting of the extension to a house in Toulouse without negatively impacting the existing structure, the walls are in glass, and the blackout curtains are placed on the outside to avoid encroaching upon the habitable area. Effective as much in the verb as in the design.
They refuse to read the abstraction of their project as an aesthetic stance because to them it is a result of the gestural minimalism to which they aspire. Their architecture is ethereal, tinkered, ambiguous. What was there? What was not? It is explicitly linked to the new brutalist school that stimulates young European architects. Bruther, De Wilder, Vink-Tailleux, H. Architectes. But it is not too so much well-defined as it is fitted to the construction set. Looking for texts that speak of their work, the project suffices in and out of itself. Frank and radical, like their output. They try to make it clear that only methods and devices should be of concern. It would be perfect if we could do an Excel table to design our project.
BAST is not a group of old friends. It's not ideologically uniform. BAST is trying to build a collective statement, as the studio is not a group of individuals. Architectural ambition, let's say our tastes, are similar. radicality is shared, even if the word is a portmanteau, and that everyone can call himself radical. Following shown projects are put in a chronological order, from the creation of our first working space to the creation of our last working space.
The first project was to settle, strip everything off to the bone. Then a white coat with no particular means. Classic strategy for a young practice. Trying to do architecture on a shoestring. Heard on the sidewalk last month. Hey, look, it's cool, looks like a startup. Meaning raw materials and visible networks are trendy. Anyway, we are getting bored of it.
Commissions first arrived through friends and neighbors. Here is a house built as a supermarket. There is a flat arranged by a plumber designer. The supermarket clients were weirdly satisfied with the tin can, until they started to want recessed spotlight in a false ceiling. Better stop when they tried to wring our necks.
Electricity and plumbing are not only technical matters. They are also an opportunity for workmanship together with craftsmen, remaining faithful to them and vice versa. The non-choice of technical equipments that architects are confronted with nowadays has encouraged the office to approach this question of networks by developing specific solutions for each project. The electrician is still in place. But the plumber disappeared one day. Was he fed up with our requests? Has the troubled past caught up with him? No one will never know. Since then, we found a better one.
When we are not short of money, raw is not expensive enough. Two virtues. Our daily work, which confronts tight budgets with wide wishes, bring the essential out. Choose what is needed at least and do it the best way. That's why when we have to work with a trendy, wealthy brand, familiar with no limit, there appears the risk to put a golden sink in the toilet to get over the excessive budget. Or preferably not to use it and give money back to them. Less is more, as the saying goes.
Open the corridor of another partitioned flat. Bringing two rooms together, which offers an all-day enlightened living room. It's simple, it's right. Open by sewing a perfect bridge in a venerable brick wall. It's simple too. But slide in the bridge a nice big frame, monstrously cladded with Havana tinted glass for fun, and pretend it answers to the client's wish. It's retrospectively questioning. The client, who never gave up, is satisfied. So we are. Somewhere else, we have a similar case with an unhappy ending. A client we didn't understand hated what we did. And, in their own words, what we imposed on them.
Attention, drum rolls, our first built public commission. A new refectory for the school of Montbrun-Bocage and the Domitable hippie village, where the mayor reads philosophy alongside the public commission regulations, to our benefit that time. Doing an extension, we rely on an existing fence wall. Delicate existing piece used as an alibi for what's going to be built on it. Choices or drawings have to be done, which are the same. When two ideas are fighting, the obvious one is picked. We recognize its efficiency. Sometimes it becomes the project, like in Montbrun, where details and execution matters are reduced to a minimum, using a single material that constitutes everything. At BAST, a good idea is not laborious.
Glass, of course. outside, inside, on the roof, in excess, always legitimate. When there is no money, it's all spent on that. If you don't see it on the construction site, it's not there yet. Choosing a single action would be glass. Unless we do a staircase, for which glass would be a bridge too far.
Our first monumental staircase, done in concrete, was a bit pushy. Promising the moon to the client without knowing it. In situ cast concrete standing on existing masonry. We finally spent 6 months looking for a structural engineer until we found the pier.
The last project was to settle, strip everything down to the bone, then a black coat with no particular means. Classic strategy for an emerging practice. Trying to do architecture with a shoestring.
Thank you.
Thank you for your attention.
You might have questions.
Yeah. Okay. So these folks wanted questions. So let's, Elizabeth? Shrinking Elizabeth, come on, you raised your hand. And if you, and Mathilde, who's exchange student from La Villette this semester, is going to translate any responses that need translation. Are you going to join them as well?
Yeah. Tiens, regarde si tu veux parler.
Okay, so Elizabeth asked, what's the meaning of architecture? So, en français, quel est le sens pour vous de l'architecture?
Okay.
You've got all the night?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. On répond en français du coup?
Comme vous voulez. Moi, je peux traduire. Vous pouvez répondre en français, je peux traduire.
Ok. Ouais.
Essaye de faire des phrases et puis comme ça tu les traduis.
Vas-y.
We answer in French and Mathilde will translate because it's more
I'll
easier
try my
for...
best to translate live.
Thank you. Déjà, pour avoir un sens de l'architecture, il faut qu'on le partage à plusieurs.
First of all, to have an idea of what is architecture, it needs to be shared with other people.
Comme nous travaillons plusieurs En ce moment, nous sommes 3.
And like that's why they're working together. And right now, they're working as a team of 3 people.
Ça évite tous les discours très narratifs sur à quoi sert l'architecture.
For them, it's a way to avoid to spend too much time about the narrative of what is architecture.
Et en revenir à une chose que l'on partage.
To be able to come back to something that they can share with each other.
En l'occurrence, ce qu'on a vu ce soir, quelque chose que nous partageons beaucoup entre nous, c'est le partage, le plaisir de faire avec aussi les entreprises, avec les chantiers.
So as they try to show us tonight, it's really in the collaborative meaning of working with like companies and the materials and the building companies.
Craftsmen, we like this name, craftsmen.
Et en fait, le chantier, c'est la matérialisation de l'objectivité de l'architecture, c'est-à-dire le bon sens, en fait.
So for them, it's on the construction side that the meaning of architecture becomes, I don't know, real.
Real and common sense.
It's common sense.
Ouais, parce que maybe sorry, I can answer in English if you want. For my part, yeah, it's because it's about for us. It's also interesting that how architecture can be done with just a common sense, just to try to be to use the objectivity to reach a result. Take the constraints as they are, and answer them quite directly and simply. Not trying to twist them or to twist shape or to find, answers that are subjective, but more, as you said, shared. And more you share with people, more you tend to get to something objective. For us, that's a bit the idea of reaching an architecture which is full of objectivity, let's say.
So, any other question?
Would you say that being an architect in Europe is difficult, like today, and what do you think it would be like in the future?
La question c'est, est-ce que c'est difficile d'être un architecte en France, particulièrement aujourd'hui dans la situation actuelle?
No.
I don't need to translate that.
Nous avons, je parle en français, nous avons une pratique qui accepte les conditions de travail aujourd'hui, les conditions de production de l'architecture, parce que nous sommes d'une nouvelle génération peut-être aussi.
So they have their way of working is also accepting the condition of architecture works in Europe today. So by accepting it, it works.
Bonjour, donc c'est Laurent. Je pense que ce qui fait que c'est plus facile, c'est aussi de travailler à plusieurs. Parce que historiquement, souvent les architectes travaillent tout seuls. Et le fait de pouvoir travailler à 3, à 4, à 5, ça facilite les choix et ça permet aussi d'avoir plus de force de conviction vis-à-vis des clients.
So historically, firms used to work, there was like one architect, but the fact that they work as a team, 3, 4, 5 people, makes it much more easy to work in more difficult conditions.
Yeah, and we're facing things quite pragmatically too, generally. Meaning that there is a situation, it is what it is, and we just deal with it. We don't put a judgment on it. We just are dealing with it as a constraint. Of course, there are things that are, you could say, that are not easy. There are some things that are more easy, but we're just taking the environment situation as a constraint, like any other constraint. Like budget or anything, you know. So it's like we're not judging it. We're not telling that it's easy or not. We're just taking it as it is.
I'm just going to shift to the little videos. When we met in Barcelona this summer, I asked you about your subs. Do you work with the same subcontractors? And the response was immediate, and you said yes, and I said, who's your favorite? And you said the electrical one. And that was such a great response to seeing the work. So just say a little bit about the people who you work with on the construction site. So.
Okay, you see, it's difficult to decide who's going to talk. We would like to have a three voice at the same time. Yeah, I mean, electrician is one of them, but we like all of them. We like working with all of them. What is interesting is the way now we kind of trust each other, the way we evaluate it together in our practice, along with the contractors, because we are challenging them, which is really interesting for them and for us, because they are more they give more implication in what they do. Very challenging them, trying to, for example, the mason is doing let's say a cement blocks wall. We want to show it. We don't want to hide it. So we challenge him to let's do a nice wall. You see, let's do a nice wall. We're gonna show it, and it's the same for the electrician. We're gonna show the networks you're gonna put in the house. We're gonna try to do some kind of new switches. Let's do it together. It's like things like that. It's enriching for them and for us, because also what we do is not in every phases of project. We participate in the construction process sometime. We are going on work site all the time, and there are a few things that we do ourselves, like the switches. Like we develop things along with the contractors. So it's like really more than just a professional relationship. It is a professional relationship, but it's like we follow our path. You know, together we are going ahead all together, and it's what is interesting. This relationship is quite rich for us.
Je pense que ça peut être mis en relation avec la question précédente aussi, parce que le fait de connaître les artisans avec lesquels on travaille, ça permet aussi ils peuvent anticiper aussi ce que l'on souhaite faire, et ils connaissent nos attentes en termes de résultats, et du coup ça facilite aussi le travail et la réalisation.
So it can be related to the question that was asked before, by getting to know the contractors they have worked with previously on other projects. They know already what they're gonna want for them, like on the next project, and so they can work better together because they already have the same aspiration.
Four questions.
More questions.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Thanks. So when you're going into an existing building and making a new design there, what do you look at first, or the first couple of things that you look at to decide what the response is going to be, whether it's material or form or program? How do you go about that?
Quand vous visitez un nouveau bâtiment où vous allez réaliser un projet, ou potentiellement réaliser un projet, quelles sont les premières choses auxquelles vous regardez? Est-ce que c'est la forme? Est-ce que c'est les matériaux? Quels détails vous intéressent?
Je pense que la première chose qu'on regarde, c'est les qualités existantes du bâtiment. Tu veux que vous travaillez en fur et à mesure? Ouais. Les qualités qui sont déjà là.
So the first thing they look is what are the existing quality of the building?
En général, c'est en particulier, surtout la structure du bâtiment.
So mainly the structure.
À Toulouse en particulier, il y a beaucoup de bâtiments en briques.
In Toulouse, where they come from, it's mostly brick buildings.
Ou alors, ça nous arrive aussi de travailler sur des bâtiments plus contemporains qui peuvent être avec des structures en béton. Dans tous les cas, cet élément premier, on essaie toujours de le remettre à nu.
So then there are like more contemporary buildings in concrete, but they try to show the structure, so to strap it down.
Parce que ce sont des choses qui sont déjà là et qui sont assez coûteuses à refaire aujourd'hui.
because there are things that they're already there, and that's what's gonna cost money. So if they can keep that.
Of course, the structure of a building is there before us and maybe is there after us. So this is the most interesting for us in architecture, is this element, primordial element, and maybe one time it's a school, maybe one time it's housing, and maybe one time it's the other thing. But this is the permanent structure in using, but not the permanent. Yes, it's a permanent structure. The permanent structure in architecture, but not in using. So that's for us. There is this structure, and after we can make some works on this site, but the structure is still here. And if it's necessary to modify the structure, we can. It's not a patrimonial concept. It's only, okay, this is here, that's good, okay, this is not very good, okay, we shut up. And it's a reflection with, to take the thing like a fact. This is a fact.
Yeah.
Je pense qu'une fois qu'on a identifié ces éléments à conserver, la seconde phase, c'est un peu de voir à quelle qualité on peut amener en plus.
So once they have seen like those, they decide which element they can keep. Then they try to see what they can bring up to that.
Et souvent, on se rend compte que les bâtiments anciens sont très peu ouverts sur l'extérieur.
So very often they come to the conclusion that old buildings are not very open to the outside.
Parce que les techniques de l'époque ne permettaient pas forcément de faire des grandes ouvertures.
Because the technicality and the structure at the time were not allowing it.
Du coup, là, l'étape suivante, c'est pour nous, c'est un peu d'arriver à ouvrir et de créer des baies, des ouvertures sur l'environnement.
So the next step is to try to open it up to the exterior and creating bigger openings.
But then, doing all that, we always try to find a kind of a single movement that unify all this intervention, like the demolishing intervention, the opening intervention, the second œuvre, like the finishes. They all follow the idea that the seed that we put it at the beginning, it's important to follow it. And it's always we try to get this essential idea or rules that are going to guide us through the whole process. And most of the time, these interventions are about usefulness. It's really about what is going to be useful. So that's why structure it's really essential, because it makes sense, the building, so you cannot just avoid it. You have to deal with it. And so that's why we like it too. I think all architects like structure because it's the primary thing of architecture, and then all the rest.
Ouais. Je pense que quand on aborde des bâtiments existants, en fait, on passe plus de temps à enlever les couches qui ont été ajoutées dans le temps que rajouter une couche supplémentaire.
When we work with existing building, we spend more time stripping them down than actually rebuilding.
Hello, my name's Alejandro. So something I really got from your presentation, at least what I'm understanding is you go through this process and you keep coming up with solutions, ideas, back to back, and then it's very collaborative with the people who you are going to end up working with, the electrician, the plumber, but you are not, from my understanding, writing the narrative. And so my question is, when do you understand that your goal has been met and what is written on paper is what you move forward with?
Okay, so that was quite a long one. So he said that what he was... oh, I'm supposed to translate.
Thank you, Mathilde.
Donc, il a expliqué que ce qu'il a vraiment appris dans votre présentation, c'était les différentes étapes successives qui ont lieu. Et sa question... et en tout cas, il avait l'impression que vous n'étiez pas en train d'écrire une narrative. Et donc, sa question, c'est de savoir quand est-ce que vous pensez que vous êtes arrivé à votre point final et quand est-ce que la phase de projet, on va dire, se termine et comment vous accomplissez cela.
J'ai deux possibilités pour qu'on sache que c'est fini,
He
le
has
projet.
two possibilities to explain when a project ends.
On a atteint le budget.
The budget is done.
Ou comment dire, il y a plus d'autres choix à faire ensemble. C'est-à-dire qu'on a atteint tous les choix possibles partageables.
There are no more choices that can be made together. What I remember from what he said, c'était aussi comment ce qui correspond sur le papier correspond à...
Au moment où on a fini de...
Voilà, enfin, comment vous réussissez à montrer que ce qui est sur le papier, c'est ce que vous voulez dans le projet. I just translated a little bit more of your question.
Okay, I think I think there is a whole pedagogical process. I mean, with clients, with people we're working for, to explain them we're gonna leave this wall like this because that's what we should do. It's all and it's never finished. Let's say it has to the clients or the people we're working for. They have to keep understanding until the project is built. So we never stop on paper. Paper is just a way to communicate some elements, but it doesn't really show the finished project. So for sure, when we draw projects, we focus on details mainly. But then when start the work on site, we discover many things. Like we discover so many, let's say, surprise, when we take off the plaster on the back of it, what is the wall and stuff like that, So it's always moving and adaptation, and so our architecture is not at all about drawings. I mean, we draw details because it's a good medium to talk with clients sometime, with contractors sometime, and we use mainly axonometrics. Maybe you have seen on our website or not. It's not really important because we found this drawing quite interesting, but it's not bringing all the interesting points of construction. Construction for us is the point. So we never put on paper construction. You cannot really put it on paper. It's about, especially when it's refurbishment, because you discover things every day. And maybe I don't know if it answers the question.
It gives a lot clearer understanding that the goal is the construction, and you keep as you are building, that's when the real process happens.
Yeah.
You find things and you keep working with those possibilities as they appear.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you guys talked about one project throughout the video that didn't go well, that the client didn't like, and you said that it was because you imposed your ideas on them. And
According to them.
right, so I guess just with that, how do you deal with a situation like that where the connection isn't there, and what did you do from there, and did you fix it?
Vous avez présenté un projet en disant que ça ne s'était pas bien passé avec le client. Et la question, c'est quelle est l'étape successive après la plainte du client et comment vous réagissez ou qu'est-ce qui se passe après?
Ça dépend.
It depends.
C'est des négociations, en fait.
It's a series of negotiation
Discussion.
and discussions.
Soit on arrive à s'entendre bien,
Either they find like a common ground,
et soit on n'arrive pas à s'entendre bien, et c'est juridique le problème.
either it just doesn't work and it becomes a juridic problems.
En l'occurrence, sur le projet en question, c'était juridique. Ça s'est fini au tribunal.
In the project that they presented, they were not able to find a common ground and it ended up at the tribunal.
C'était il y a 3 ans et c'est toujours en cours.
It was 3 years ago and it's still ongoing.
Mais le premier rapport du tribunal nous a donné raison.
Attends,
Quand même.
But the first report of the jury gave them the rights.
Ça reste un cas particulier. Ça reste un cas particulier. Sur les autres projets, en général, on s'entend avec les clients. On arrive à s'entendre.
Très très rare.
It's a very particular case. It hasn't happened with other projects.
Yeah, but what's interesting about your question is it brings the question of how to manage the relationship with the client and how to bring the project to some point that it gives satisfaction to both us and them, and that's really about pedagogy and for sure like the methods and methodology and the process we are going through, they are not so let's say so simple to accept for someone that is going to live in this kind of architecture. So it's all about again, like with the contractors, it's about the implication the implication of the client to make him understand that all these choices are made together and there is a logic in it. It's like logical, and it's most of the time it's about the economy of the project, where to put money, and we all the time try to push them to make the decision that are putting money in the quality of the project, which is what we advise them. It's not like, and that's where the pedagogy starts, like how to make them understand that's maybe more interesting to put the money there than there, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And on this one, it was a bit weird, but because it happened at the end, so because they let us do a project, and at the end they were like, no, it's not good. But we've been through all the phases, drawings, and they've seen everything, and we did agree on everything. But at the end, they were like, "No, okay."
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Marie-Isabelle. I wanted to ask you, I really enjoyed the use of the videos in your presentation. And given what you're saying about how the drawing is not as important to the work and your way of approaching the work that you do, however, it seems to me that there might be a different use to your videos for you, the way you work together. So could you explain that a little bit further?
Donc, merci pour votre présentation. Elle a beaucoup apprécié l'usage des vidéos. Et sa question était, étant donné que peut-être les dessins ne sont peut-être pas aussi importants dans votre pratique que dans la pratique d'autres agences, qu'est-ce que la vidéo vous apporte dans le processus de conception?
Je pense qu'en fait, les dessins sont quand même importants dans notre pratique, parce qu'on dessine quand même tout pour pouvoir, pour que les entreprises puissent construire. Ils ont des dessins comme dans tout bureau.
So the drawings are still like very important in their firm.
Et les vidéos qui ont été présentées, en fait, on avait commencé à les faire pour une exposition à Lisbonne l'an dernier.
So the videos they presented, they started doing them for an exposition they had last year in Lisbon.
Mais ça n'a jamais été en fait un outil de conception. C'était plus une demande spécifique. Et du coup, on a fait des vidéos de chantier.
So it was never a a tool for concept. It was more something they did for a specific purpose.
Mais après coup, on utilise beaucoup pour communiquer nos projets, en fait. Parce que comme beaucoup de le projet passe beaucoup par le chantier, et la vidéo, en fait, elle explicite très bien ses actes.
But in the end, they realized that they really like using them for presentation, especially because they think it shows very well the construction site. And since their work happens a lot in the construction site, it's a great tool for them to explain what they do.
And generally, when we do lectures, we use on-site, work-site pictures. Not, as Laurent said, the videos are quite special because we've done them for something else, but work-site pictures are an important medium for us. We really use them. As we told you, this is a really important phase, the construction. But then also it talks maybe more about the project than a finished picture. Because it shows the process, it shows the guys doing the thing, you know, and it's like the reality is there. Then the project is finished, you need explanation because it's finished and okay, the guy, we have done this beam there. When you show on-site project, you understand more of what have been done, you know. And so videos is a moving picture of a work site, so you can see the beam moving. And but then, yeah, it's like most important is work site picture, I think, not videos, but work site picture is.
We have time for one more question.
There was one question that was there for a while.
Okay. And then, of course, all three will be up there and join us for the reception.
Hi, thank you, first of all, for coming. And then also, to speak to form and space. First of all, your forms are beautiful, but I was wondering, is form more important to you in regards to architecture, or is space more important? Like which one? I know they're both important, but...
Merci beaucoup d'être venu. Elle trouve que vos formes sont très belles, mais elle se demande si la forme devient plus importante que l'espace créé.
Je peux dire une réponse. I think form or space are not our goal, you know. We don't do architecture to reach a form or to reach a space. We're doing architecture to process a construction, to put thoughts in how to build something. And then it gives a form, it gives a space. But we don't, let's say we don't start a project by saying we're going to do this space or we're going to do this form. We start a project saying we're going to try to do this construction, like mise en œuvre. I don't know what's the word in English. This construction process, let's say. That's not all the time, and most of the time we start a project like that. So the space and forms are a result that we don't put intention in it, let's say. We're just more about how we're going to build it, which process we're going to try to make to build this, you know. But maybe it answers a bit to the question.
It's a question you can follow up because while they don't start with form, even in the 1.5 days of conversations with the students, they're an incredibly good form and read of a situation. So they can do that. They just don't lead with that. Thank you very much. And you are good at questions upstairs.
Okay, good. Thank you.